Gary Smith was the electrician who found Kurt Cobain's body, but no one ever asked him, was the electrical problem in the garage real? In 2024, Smith revealed the truth. The call that brought me there was fake. Someone deliberately wanted me to find Kurt at that house. This was planned. For 30 years, Gary Smith was silenced by police pressure, but finally decided to speak. What he tells will completely change the official story about Kurt Cobain's death. Because Smith didn't just find a body that morning in the garage, he also saw evidence that the crime scene had been tampered with. Gary Smith was a professional electrician with 25 years of experience in Seattle in 1994. The owner of Smith Electric Company, Gary was a trusted craftsman who did electrical work in Seattle's wealthy neighborhoods. He had installed and repaired electrical systems in luxury homes around Lake Washington. Gary's professional background was flawless. He was a member of the Washington Electricians Chamber, a licensed electrical contractor, and had completed over 1,000 successful projects. Customer references were excellent. He had never received a complaint. He especially had famous clients in the Lake Washington area: Microsoft executives, Boeing engineers, music producers. Gary's reliability and sensitivity about confidentiality made him the preferred electrician. Seattle Times newspaper had named Gary Electrician of the Year in 1993. He received top scores for technical knowledge, honesty, and customer satisfaction. This background made him an extremely reliable witness in the Kurt Cobain incident. Gary was also a Vietnam War veteran. He had worked as a radio technician during military service and received training on firearms. This experience enabled him to notice the ballistic abnormalities he saw in Kurt's garage. On the evening of April 7, 1994, Gary Smith was resting at home when the phone rang. The caller identified herself as Courtney Love's assistant. The woman said there was an urgent electrical problem and that he needed to come early the next morning. According to Smith's 2024 confession, the phone call details were as follows. The woman told me, "There's been a power outage at 202 Lake Washington Boulevard, Kurt Cobain's house. Can you come there at 8 a.m. tomorrow?" I thought it was a normal work call and accepted. But there were strange details about this call. Smith: normally customers explain the details of electrical problems. Which room, when it started, things like that. But this woman only said, "There's an electrical problem." She gave no details. Even stranger was the payment issue. The woman told me, "We'll pay cash, $500. This was way too much for a normal electrical repair. But I didn't object. April 8, 1994, 8:30 a.m. Gary Smith arrived at the house on Lake Washington Boulevard. The exterior of the house looked normal. There were no signs of power outage. He knocked on the door, but no one answered. Smith's first observation was this. I checked the house's main electrical panel. The fuses were normal. There was no power outage. This was very strange because they had called me for an electrical problem. While walking around the house, Smith noticed that the garage door was ajar. The garage door wasn't completely open, but it was ajar. Things could be seen from inside. When Smith opened the garage door, the first thing he saw was Kurt Cobain's body. But what Smith hid for 30 years wasn't just finding the body. It was seeing the obvious errors in the garage staging. Smith's most striking observation was about Kurt's position. Kurt's body position looked very strange. The rifle was on his chest, but the grip was impossible. His arm would need to be much longer to pull the trigger. Forensic expert Dr. Amanda Foster evaluated Gary's observation. Suicide victims using shotguns typically place the weapon in their mouths or at their temples. Chest position is very rare and physically difficult. The second strange detail was the blood traces. Kurt had a wound on his head, but the blood traces were inconsistent. Blood was in one part of the wall, but not where it should have been. It was as if the blood traces were created afterwards. Blood spatter expert Dr. Robert Chen confirmed Gary's observations. Blood spatter pattern doesn't comply with physics. Blood from high-velocity impact should create downward pattern according to gravity. Upward splatter suggests a different velocity source. The third abnormality was about objects in the garage. Some objects in the garage were very orderly. If someone committing suicide had moved around in the garage, objects should have been messy. But everything was very organized. It seemed staged. Crime scene reconstruction expert Dr. Lisa Park said about this. In genuine suicide scenes, there's struggle evidence. Victim shows movement in final moments. The excessive organization Gary described is a classic indicator of a staged scene. The most shocking observation was Kurt's hands. Kurt had no gunpowder residue on his hands. I had served in the military. I knew firearm use. If you fire your own weapon, there's definitely gunpowder residue on hands, but Kurt's hands had none. Ballistics expert Michael Rodriguez found this observation critical. Gunshot residue, GSR, absence is very important. Shotgun discharge produces massive amount of GSR. There would definitely be traces in hand and arm areas. Absence suggests post-mortem weapon placement. Smith immediately called 911. Police and ambulance arrived within 10 minutes. But the police's initial reaction surprised Smith. When the police came, I tried to tell them about the strange details in the garage, but they didn't want to listen. Police officer Detective Cameron interrogated Smith, but the questions were different from normal. Cameron asked me, "Why are you at this house?" When I said I came for electrical repair, he said, "Who called you?" I told him about the phone call, but he didn't write it down. Detective Cameron's behavior was very suspicious. In normal witness statements, every detail is recorded. But Cameron was avoiding writing down Gary's most important observations. Even stranger was Detective Cameron's advice to Smith. Cameron told me, "You just found the body. You saw nothing else. Don't forget this." This was very strange because police normally want witnesses to tell every detail. According to Gary's account, Cameron had also said, "This case is very sensitive. It could attract media attention. You need to minimize your involvement." Cameron's radio conversation had other details too. Scene secured, witness controlled, narrative established. He was using code words. Gary understood these were tactical communications thanks to his military background. Smith's official statement was very limited. I came for electrical repair. I found the body in the garage. I called 911, but what he actually saw was much more. Cameron was deliberately not recording important details. While being taken to the station to give a statement, Smith noticed other strange details. On the way to the station, I heard a conversation from Detective Cameron's radio. He said, "Everything is going as we planned." This was very strange. At the station, other police officers also asked Smith questions, but these questions were also different from normal. They told me, "Don't share this conversation with anyone." They threatened me, saying, "If you talk to the media, you'll get in trouble." Police intimidation was systematic. Sergeant Williams told Gary, "This case is a rock star's suicide. Public interest is very high. If false information is spread, there will be serious legal consequences." The most disturbing threat came from Lieutenant Johnson. "Smith, you're a family man. Your reputation is important for your business. If you spread conspiracy theories, you'll lose credibility." Smith returned home very confused that day. What I saw didn't make sense. Kurt's manner of death didn't look like suicide, but the police were trying to silence me. In the following days, Smith began receiving strange phone calls. People calling from unknown numbers would say, "Forgetting what you saw would be good for your health." I understood I was being intimidated. These calls were systematic and coordinated. They would call at different times every day, sometimes midnight, sometimes early morning. They wanted to disrupt my sleep schedule. The threats gradually became explicit. One caller said, "Don't talk for your family's safety." Another said, "If you stay in Seattle, things could go badly." A week later, Smith's electrical company was burned down. The cause of the fire was stated as electrical contact, but Smith was suspicious. "I've been an electrician for 25 years. That fire was intentional. It was done to silence me." The fire investigation was conducted superficially. The fire department report was prepared very quickly. No detailed investigation was done. It was as if the conclusion was predetermined. Smith's life turned into a nightmare after finding Kurt. I was constantly being followed. My phones were tapped. My business customers stopped calling me. I became unable to live in Seattle. The details of being followed were disturbing. The same cars would park in front of my house. Photos were being taken. Notes were being written. My children were being asked questions at school. Gary's wife, Linda, was very affected. My wife started having panic attacks. She said, "This is too dangerous for my family." Her protective instincts kicked in. Sabotage in business life increased. My customers started canceling one by one. Rumors were spread saying he's not reliable. In 1995, Smith moved to Portland with his family. It wasn't safe to stay in Seattle. I had to change cities for my children's safety. Starting a new life in Portland was difficult. My 25-year customer network stayed in Seattle. Starting from scratch was very hard. We had financial problems. Smith tried to build a new life in Portland, but the Kurt incident wouldn't leave him alone. I would see that garage in my dreams. Kurt's position, blood traces, organized objects, everything would come back repeatedly. In 1998, Smith started seeing a mental health specialist. Post-traumatic stress disorder was diagnosed. The trauma wasn't just from finding the body. Having what I saw covered up made me sick. Dr. Margaret Wilson treated Gary for years. Mr. Smith was experiencing classic witness trauma. He knew the importance of what he saw, but couldn't stand against the system. This was very destructive. Gary's children were also affected by this situation. Questions like, "Did your father kill Kurt Cobain?" were coming to my son at school. The children didn't understand this situation. His daughter Sarah would later say, "My father was very tense and sad for years. We didn't know why. Now we understand what he went through." In the early 2000s, Smith received a call from Tom Grant. Grant told me he was investigating Kurt's death. He wanted to talk, but I refused. I was still very scared. Tom Grant's approach was very professional. He told Gary, "I'm a private detective. I'm investigating the Kurt Cobain case. You're a critical witness. Your information could change the case." But Gary was still under the effect of police intimidation. I told Grant I just found the body. I don't know anything else. But Grant was insistent, saying I had seen real things. Grant didn't pressure Gary, but gave important information. Grant told me there were multiple inconsistencies in the case. There were problems in the medical examiner report. Police investigation was shoddy. This conversation disturbed Gary. What Grant said matched what I saw, but I wasn't ready to talk. Police threats were still fresh. Smith retired in 2010, but the Kurt topic was still taboo. Even my family wanted me not to discuss this topic. They said, "Don't stir up the past," but my conscience wasn't clear. In 2018, Smith's grandson moved to Seattle for university. My grandson asked me, "Grandpa, aren't you the man who found Kurt Cobain?" That's when I realized I couldn't carry this secret forever. In 2023, Smith was diagnosed with prostate cancer. The doctor told me, "You have 2 years." That's when I decided I would tell the truth before dying. Smith's family was against this decision. My wife and children asked why now, but I explained that I'd been carrying this burden for 30 years. I wanted to be at peace. In 2024, Smith gave an interview to a local journalist. His confession created a bombshell effect. The truth was coming out 30 years later. When I found Kurt, that death had been staged. After Smith's statements, the FBI took action. Federal investigation was started because there were interstate conspiracy allegations. Courtney Love had made the phone call from California. Gary had responded from Washington. FBI agent Sarah Martinez conducted an extensive interview with Gary. Agent Martinez told me, "Your testimony is very valuable. There's enough evidence to build a federal case." FBI investigation findings are preliminary but significant. Phone records confirm that the number that called Gary was from Courtney Love's LA residence, but Courtney was claiming an alibi at that time. The FBI is also investigating Seattle Police Department's conduct. Federal agents are taking allegations of police intimidation and evidence tampering seriously. Multiple witnesses have reported similar treatment. Smith's most detailed explanation was this: Kurt's fingerprints weren't on the trigger part of the rifle. The weapon had been placed in his hand after he was killed. This was done very amateurishly. The second important explanation was about blood traces. The blood spatter pattern was wrong. Blood coming from the head should flow downward according to gravity, but there was blood on the upper part of the wall. This blood must have come from somewhere else. The third critical observation was about Kurt's clothes. Kurt's clothes were very clean. There should be struggle signs on suicide victims' clothes, but Kurt's clothes were as if newly worn. Smith's most striking claim was this: Kurt's body hadn't died where it was found. He had been killed somewhere else and placed in the garage. The body temperature and rigor mortis signs were proof of this. These statements prompted Seattle Police Department to action. The department characterized Smith's allegations as baseless. Mr. Smith's memories are not reliable 30 years later. The official report will not change, but forensic experts took Smith's statements seriously. Dr. Patricia Williams. What Gary Smith describes are classic scene staging signs. If true, this is murder evidence. Ballistics expert Michael Rodriguez also supported Smith. The grip angle and lack of gunpowder residue show Smith is right. The weapon could have been placed post-mortem. After Smith's statements, other witnesses also came forward. Neighbor Barbara Chen. Strange sounds were coming from the Cobain house on the night of April 7th. I saw a car speeding away toward morning. Another neighbor, Robert Kim. I saw someone at the house before the electrician came that morning. There were moving shadows in the garage. Smith's confession also revealed the person behind the fake phone call. The voice of the woman who called sounded familiar. Then I realized it was Courtney Love. She had called me to that house. Phone records also confirmed Smith. The number that called Smith's house on the evening of April 7th was from Courtney Love's house in Los Angeles, but Courtney claimed she wasn't in Seattle at that time. Smith's final statement was most striking. I was sent there to find Kurt. Their plan was, a reliable witness would find the body, call police, and the suicide story would be supported. But I didn't ignore that the plan was done very amateurishly. After new complaints to Seattle police, FBI took over the case. Federal-level investigation was started. Smith's allegations point to federal crime. Smith is now under protected witness status. FBI put me under protection. They said the threats continue. FBI's protection program was comprehensive. New identity, safe housing, 24-hour security detail. The federal government sees me under serious threat. Gary's attorney, David Wilson, is optimistic. My client's testimony constitutes very strong evidence. Federal prosecutors are starting to consider organized crime charges. Legal experts emphasize the importance of the situation. Law professor Dr. Amanda Martinez. This confession after 30 years of silence is very valuable. It fundamentally shakes the justice system. Assistant Federal Prosecutor Jennifer Park. Witness intimidation constitutes federal crime. If it was organized, RICO law can be applied. Gary's emotional state in this process is difficult. I stayed silent for years because I was scared. Now I'm scared because I spoke. But I had to tell the truth. His family now supports Gary's decision. They were against it at first, but now they understand. They grasped what it means to carry such a secret for 30 years. Gary's health condition is worrying. Cancer treatment continues, but I'm trying to stay strong. I want to see the end of this case. The most important development is other witnesses finding courage. After I spoke, other people started coming forward. Everyone had similar experiences. Postal worker Michael Davis also testified, I didn't deliver any mail to the Cobain house that week because no one was there, but the garage door was open on the morning of April 8th. Cleaning staff Angela Torres gave other details. The Cobain house was cleaned on the evening of April 7th, but I didn't do cleaning that day. These testimonies strengthen Gary's story. It's not just my word anymore. Many people experience the same things. Media reaction was huge. Rolling Stone magazine made it a cover story. The man who found Kurt Cobain speaks. 30-year silence ends. Gary, who was interviewed on CNN, said, "The American people deserve the truth. The Kurt Cobain legend was built on lies." Seattle Times published an investigative report. Documents related to the Kurt Cobain incident are missing from police department. Files mysteriously disappeared. After Gary's statements, Seattle mayor made a statement. The Kurt Cobain incident will be reinvestigated. The public should learn the truth. Seattle police are under pressure. Many witnesses say they experienced similar police pressure. This looks like a systematic cover-up operation. Police Chief Morrison resigned. I take responsibility for my role in the Kurt Cobain incident. I am resigning. Gary is pleased with these developments. Finally, justice is taking its place. It's 30 years late, but better late than never. Frances Bean Cobain sent a thank you message to Gary. Thank you very much for showing the courage to speak for my father. Chris Novoselic supported Gary. Gary is doing the right thing. Kurt's real story should be told. Dave Grohl made an emotional statement. Gary's courage is admirable. We're paying our debt to Kurt. Gary's final message is hopeful. The truth is slowly coming out. Kurt's soul can finally find peace. Gary Smith's truth, hidden for 30 years, is causing Kurt Cobain's death to be questioned again. What the crime scene witness tells is of a nature that will refute the official suicide story. In Smith's words, "I was just an electrician, but what I saw made me sick for 30 years. Now, everyone knows the truth. Kurt Cobain was murdered and the scene was staged.